Millions on the line, a pivotal point in her career in Abu Dhabi, and all of a sudden, Alex Eala's phone would not stop ringing. Not from friends, but from sponsors who were prepared to permanently alter her life. The subsequent explosion was unanticipated. Everything changed overnight after only one game and one performance. This is the story of how a Filipino tennis player turned a single event into a multi-million-dollar sensation, and why the largest businesses in the world are now battling for her signature. This was not where Alex Eala was meant to be. Well, not just yet. The Filipino tennis sensation has already forged a career that most players can only imagine at the age of 20. Every time she took the court, the pride of an entire country rested on her shoulders as the Grand Slam junior champion and the first Filipino to win a WTA singles title. However, the professional circuit, that's a whole other animal. It's where promise meets pressure, where potential meets reality, and where careers either gradually sink into obscurity or are propelled into stardom. Eala had long been seen as the next big thing in Philippine tennis, the one who would eventually make a name for himself on the international scene. However, futures don't cover expenses, they don't silence skeptics, and they most definitely don't draw the kind of sponsorship money that turns an athlete from a rival into a household name. Abu Dhabi was important because of this. The United Arab Emirates WTA 500 tournament was more than just a scheduled event. For Eala, it was a sign of approval, an opportunity to demonstrate her status as a member of the elite, and a stage so bright that everyone couldn't turn away. Although she had previously participated in larger competitions with more difficult opponents and higher money, there was something about Abu Dhabi that felt different. Perhaps it was the preparation, the timing, or just the right time when an athlete's readiness and opportunity coincide. Eala brought more than just her racket bag with her when she arrived in Abu Dhabi. She represented the aspirations of more than 110 million Filipinos. In a nation where basketball and boxing had long eclipsed tennis, she carried the burden of being a trailblazer. She carried the expectations of sponsors who had put money into her potential but were awaiting evidence to support their beliefs. She might have been crushed by the pressure. It does for a lot of young athletes. However, this is what sets excellent players apart from mediocre ones. When the spotlight is at its brightest, great players flourish. They don't back down from the situation. They spread out into it. As the competition got underway, it became evident that Alex Eala wasn't only prepared for Abu Dhabi. She was going to get it. Tennis insiders were keeping a close eye on her in the days preceding her debut match. Coaches who had trained her, reporters who had tracked her from the Rafael Nadal Academy to the professional circuit, and agents who saw that a single, game-changing performance could make all the difference. The murmurs were positive yet cautious. She may create a stir here if she plays her part and maintains her composure. Nobody could have guessed how loud that roar would get. Over the previous year, Eala's game has changed dramatically. Her forehand, which was always a weapon, has become even faster and more accurate. She was able to retrieve balls that would have been winners against her younger self because of her improved movement on the court. Above all, though, she had improved her mental game. A focused, strategic competitor who recognized that tennis at the top level is as much a psychological struggle as a physical one had taken the place of the adolescent player who occasionally allowed her emotions to control her performance. Something snapped when she worked through her pre-match rituals and hit with her team on the Abu Dhabi practice courts. For the first time in months or even years, everything seemed to be in order, the conditions seemed perfect, and the preparation felt finished. This wasn't your typical competition. At this point, whether Eala realized it at the time or not, the world was going to take notice of what she had been working toward her entire life, and it would change everything. Could she, however, bear what lay ahead? The tone was established by the first game. Eala entered the court with a kind of subdued assurance that unnerves opponents. Pure, concentrated intensity, no theatrics, no needless emotion. The experience edge went to her opponent, a seasoned WTA veteran who was ranked in the top 50. She had previously participated in major contests. She has survived storms caused by young upstarts attempting to establish themselves. On paper, the veteran should have won easily. Greatness in the making is not taken into account on paper. Eala played with an unprecedented level of freedom from the first game. Her serve, which was usually dependable but not overwhelming, now had more bite. Her already powerful ground strokes were landing inches from the lines with an almost unachievable consistency. And how did she move? It was similar to witnessing someone who had researched every angle and potential shot and had prepared a reaction for each one. The veteran made every effort. Drop shots to challenge Eala's court coverage, hard topspin to force her behind the baseline, and slices to disturb her rhythm. Nothing was effective. Every tactic was countered, and every weapon was rendered ineffective. As the match went on, you could see her opponent's realization beginning to show on their face. This was not the young prospect still figuring things out, nor was this the player she had scouted. This individual was functioning at an entirely different level. Eala's 6-3 victory in the opening set was strong but not overwhelming, enough to make a statement without exposing all of her cards. The second set was a masterclass, 6-1, brutal, clinical, and exquisite. The fans went wild when Eala hit the game-winning cross-court forehand, which painted the line so precisely that it left a mark on the court. More significantly, though, phones began to appear, social media began to take off, clips of her greatest photos began to circulate, and marketing executives in boardrooms around Asia and beyond began to pay close attention. However, a tournament is not created by a single match, and a career is not created by a single tournament. Even more formidable was Eala's second-round opponent, a top 30 player renowned for her mental tenacity and consistency. The type of gamer who never gives you anything for free, forces you to earn every point, and grinds you down. The test was this. The majority of new players fall at this point, as reality sets in and the excitement after a significant first-round victory wanes. Eala passed with honors. After nearly 2.5 hours of intense, excellent tennis, the match lasted 3 sets. There were times when it appeared that the veteran's experience would win out. In certain games, Eala's youth was evident, irritation seeped in, and uncertainty threatened to take root. However, she always managed to find a solution. In a single stroke, a defensive lob converted defense into attack, a massive serve saved breakpoint, and a flawlessly executed approach shot to gain momentum. Something changed when she finished the last point and collapsed to the court in relief and tiredness. This was no longer merely a nice run. This was a declaration. This was Alex Eala telling the tennis world that she was here, even though she wasn't. Traveling wherever. Eala's genius persisted as the competition went on. Every opponent carried a different weapon, and every match presented fresh obstacles, but Eala always managed to overcome them. Her shot selection demonstrated wisdom beyond her years, her court positioning was flawless, and her forehand was destroying opponents. The tennis community had taken note by the time she advanced to the semifinals. Superlatives were running low among commentators, previous champions were expressing their adoration on Twitter, and most significantly, her name was trending both domestically and internationally. In Manila, the semi-finals game was televised during prime time. In order to see their champion compete on one of the biggest tennis stages, entire neighborhoods gathered around televisions, offices stopped, and schools halted. Eala did not let me down. Her blend of youthful bravery and experienced poise made her unstoppable. The Philippines erupted with joy when she won the match and guaranteed her place in the finals. But the euphoria was just beginning, for what occurred next would transcend tennis utterly. The entire globe was observing. Even though the final was set for Sunday afternoon, Alex Eala's life had already completely transformed by Monday morning. She had given an electrifying performance in Abu Dhabi. Whether she won or lost the final, she had already surpassed all expectations. She had triumphed over more experienced opponents. She had demonstrated competence and maturity above her years. She had provided the most important moment in decades for the tennis community in the Philippines. However, nobody could have imagined what transpired in the 48 hours following the tournament's conclusion. Social media was where it all began. After winning the semi-final, Eala's Instagram following increased by more than 200,000 within hours. Millions of people watched her highlight clips as they were uploaded on various media. Celebrities from the Philippines were sharing posts about her. Her performance was being praised by international tennis professionals. At the same time, the hashtag Alex Eala was popular in other nations. However, chatter on social media is one thing. What followed was quite different. Instead of the typical questions regarding appearance fees or exhibition matches, Eala's management team began to get calls. Major brands, international athletic businesses, international beverage firms, and tech corporations seeking Asian-Pacific ambassadors had serious negotiations. Philippine businesses see a chance to support patriotism. Not only was the attention noteworthy, but it was also unheard of for a Filipino tennis player. It turned out to be a perfect storm of talent, timing, and cultural moment, according to a sports marketing expert. Eala was more than just a talented athlete competing well. She stood for something greater. She was a young, well-spoken, skilled athlete who appealed to a wide range of people. In addition to tennis enthusiasts, she also appealed to young women looking for role models, the larger Filipino diaspora, and companies attempting to get into the Southeast Asian market. In order to manage the surge in sponsor interest, her team had to schedule more meetings. Previously uninterested brands were suddenly pressuring for quick deals. Suddenly, businesses that had never thought about sponsoring tennis were looking at their choices. The sheer number and urgency of the questions was astounding. The reaction was considerably stronger in the Philippines. Politicians tweeted congrats, news organizations published feature articles, morning programs asked for interviews, and the Philippine Sports Commission pledged further financing for tennis development initiatives. Eala had evolved from an athlete to an icon of the country. Her current sponsors were just as excited. All of a sudden, the companies that had helped her along the way saw enormous returns on their investment. Due to their relationship with Eala, their social media mentions increased dramatically, resulting in favorable brand sentiment across all demographics. Within 72 hours of her performance in Abu Dhabi, one sponsor reported a 35% boost in engagement. Most importantly, though, young Filipino girls began picking up tennis rackets, signing up for lessons, and asking their parents about training regimens. The Eala Effect was fostering a grassroots movement and motivating the following generation in ways that went beyond personal success. Eala herself managed the unexpected attention with impressive poise. She remained modest in post-tournament interviews, giving appreciation to her family, her team, and the encouragement of Filipino supporters. She talked about how she felt obligated to represent her nation. Although she was aware of the strain, she chose to view it as inspiration rather than a burden. But the truth was more nuanced behind the scenes. Her team had to make tough choices about what sponsors should prioritize, how to strike a balance between training obligations and commercial opportunities, and whether to seize the opportunity quickly or adopt a more cautious approach to maintain long-term value. The offers were enormous. 7-figure offers from foreign businesses, 6-figure endorsement deals from Philippine firms, appearance fees that much exceeded her tournament earnings. Every choice had a significant impact because the financial change was taking place in real time. Eala's commercial value rose by more than 500% in just 1 week, according to one marketing expert estimate. According to another, she is now the most marketable Filipino athlete since the heyday of Manny Pacquiao. These were real offer sheets and contract talks that were taking place concurrently in several marketplaces. They weren't merely hopeful forecasts. It wasn't whether Alex Eala's performance in Abu Dhabi would make her wealthy. That was already taking place. The true question was how she would continue to grow as a player while adjusting to this new reality. Because the most difficult part was only getting started. Let's discuss numbers. Actual numbers. Prior to Abu Dhabi, Alex Eala's yearly sponsorship income was projected to be between $300,000 and $400,000, which was respectable for a young player but less than that of well-known celebrities. Her transactions mostly involved smaller foreign businesses and Philippine brands that were prepared to invest in potential rather than established economic value. The scene changed drastically after Abu Dhabi. A large international sportswear company made the first significant agreement. Industry experts estimate a 3-year contract for about $2, while the precise amounts are still unknown. $5 million, with performance bonuses that could raise it considerably. In addition to stipulations for signature product lines in the event that specific ranking and tournament milestones were met, the agreement included clothing, footwear, and equipment. This was calculating business, not charity. 4 months, the brand had been keeping an eye on A-list developments while waiting for the ideal opportunity to make a sizable bid. That moment came from Abu Dhabi. Her performance proved she was capable of competing at the highest level. Her social media success demonstrated her ability to increase interaction. Beyond merely tennis, she was strategically valued due to her cultural significance in the Philippines and the larger Asian market. However, there were other people at the table as well. Negotiations for a regional ambassadorship were started by a large beverage business. Eala would become the face of their Asian Pacific marketing campaign under the planned partnership, appearing in digital material and advertisement.